Who's this Deku, and why do all the pros want to adopt him? By 80sGayTrashGoblin. Chapter 4: The Reign of Terror begins. To Deku, am I a dog? A mouse? A bear? Most importantly, I'm Nedzu, the principal of UA. I'm very interested in you, Deku. I haven't been able to figure out your identity yet, and I'm very curious. It's the first interesting game I've had in a while. You have certainly caught my attention. At some point, we should meet up for a game of chess. Only once you're ready, of course. I have a suggestion for you. You are very dedicated to security, which is commendable. But there are cases that can be time sensitive and need an answer quicker than an envelope in a P.O. box. What you should get is a Hero Network account in order to access information and send analyses easier. Every pro hero has one, and it's all safety encrypted, so it's safe to send analyses over. Please let me know your HN number once you have one. I'm very curious to continue this game. Mr. Principal, Netsu. P.S. Everyone is excited to see sushi. Hux. P.P.S. You should be charging 16,000 yen per hour. Miss Joke. P.P.P.S. Your puns are quality. Sir Night-Eye. Izuku's jaw dropped as he sat at the cafe. He had taken a morning shift at the cat cafe since one of the other part-timers was sick and couldn't come in. Since he didn't have time to open the letter before work, he elected to do so during his break. He could technically quit working at the cafe, but working there was nice. It had a nice atmosphere, and the customers who came were nice and rarely ever got on Izuku's nerves. Besides, the cats would miss him, and he couldn't do that to them. Still in shock, he tucked the letter back into the envelope, and the envelope back into his bag. Getting up, he simply went back to work, pushing the letter to the back of his mind. The revelation could wait until he was off the clock. UA Teachers and Company, 2:19 p.m. Deku, Izuku, added Deku to the UA Teachers and Company. So I'm going to call them by their names, but in the description I'll leave a list of who is who for the group chat parts. Too much perfume. Deku-chan. Eraser Dad. Not that I'm not glad to see you, but how the fuck did you get in here? Deku. Smiley face. McChicken. That's terrifying. Thank you. Deku. Anyways, there isn't enough PQ media refs to satisfy me. Deku changed lie detector's name to Pink Panther. Deku changed McChicken's name to Falcon. Falcon. But I'm a hawk! Deku changed Noom's name to Silver the Hedgehog. Deku changed Too Much Perfume's name to Anya Amasova. I don't know what it's a ref to, but I love the name. Deku changed Take Name's Kick-Ass's name to Jacked Bugs Bunny. Deku changed Giggles and Shit's name to Captain Jack Sparrow. Deku changed Put 'em Up's name to Fusro Da. Deku changed All Might Jr.'s name to Doctor Strange. Fusro Da. I don't get most of these references. Deku. Don't worry, I'll educate you. Smiley face. Eraser Dad. Why is my name Nephthalone? Deku. It's already perfect. Anya Amasova. Speaking of which... Anya Amasova changed Dekiru's name to Dekiru-chan. Dekiru-chan. I'm okay with this. Falcon. It was inevitable. Dekiru-chan. Oh, I'm so tempted. Silver the Hedgehog. To do what? Eraser Dad. Problem child. Dekiru-chan. I'ma do it. Silver the Hedgehog. Do what? Dekiru-chan changed Nezu's name to God. Eraser Dad. Oh no. God. It is a pleasure to meet you, Dekiru. Dekiru-chan. A pleasure to meet you too. I can't play chess in person, but I know a private server where we can play online. God. It would be my pleasure. Falcon. Speaking of which, I demand a pic of sushi. Dekiru-chan. Oh! Since a pic. This is Sushi. She's a brat, but I love her. Anya Amasova. Oh my god, she's adorable. Kiss her for me. Captain Jack Sparrow. She's a cutie. Fusorda. My heart, it's melting. Silver the Hedgehog. Retweet. Falcon. Retweet. Jack Bugs Bunny. Retweet. Doctor Strange. Speaking of which, now that you're here, Dekiru, there's a case I need you to go over. Dekiru-chan. Of course. Send me the deets and I'll take a look. OMG, my PMs are exploding. Fusorda. I may have shared your agent number when you joined the chat. Dekiru-chan. You know what? I don't mind. But I do need to go do my job, Lil. Chapter 5. Falling Apart. Trigger warning. For minor character death, quirkist assholes, attempted suicide. So if any of you need someone around to talk to or need to skip this chapter, I completely understand. Please do whatever it takes to keep yourself safe. From that day, Deku's popularity exploded. Not among the public. Analysts don't get that sort of popularity in the public eye. No, among the hero network, Deku was gaining traction. Deku was gaining traction. He got asked to do analyses on everyone, from the Wild Wild Pussycats to All Might himself. For villains, security missions, police cases, and everything in between. He was making so much money he didn't even have to go to work. He still did, because it was nice and he liked the owner. He had finished the first year of online college courses he was taking. He skipped from middle school to college because he wanted to go to a physical high school, and was taking a metaphorical gap year for his new analyst job, as well as launching himself into the programming and hacking classes. And all the bills were easily paid. It was 10 months before the UA entrance exams when it all fell apart. On the way to the hospital, Izuku pulled out his phone, weaving around people expertly even with the duffel bag over their shoulder. Trigger case. Do not change names. 3:07 p.m. Detective Sukauchi. At Dekiru. Have you gotten the info yet? Dekiru. I have. I'm still looking it over. Detective Sukauchi. I think we need to meet in person. I've only given you a little bit of information, but there's stuff that's dangerous to be sent online, even over HN. Dekiru. I know a place. It's private and the part-timer that closes the cafe won't mind if we use the cafe as a meeting place after hours. Detective Sukauchi. Where's the cafe? Dekiru. It's Muse Muffins on corner and 3rd Street. Meet at 9. Detective Sukoti. Right. At everyone. Please meet for a meeting tonight at Muse Muffins at 9 p.m. Satisfied, Izuku pocketed his phone. With a bounce in his step, he continued onward, his feet carrying him through muscle memory. Humming a little tune that he learned from his mother, he went up to the front desk with a smile and a good mood. They had moved his mom to another room, so he asked where it was. He didn't want to just ask his mom. It was supposed to be a surprise visit. Hi, I'm here to see Midoriya Inko, he chirped, bouncing on his feet. Oh, you must be Izuku, the quirkless, the secretary asked. He flinched at the reminder but nodded, keeping the smile and good mood. He's heard enough of her remarks to be able to tune her out by now. She was pronounced dead a couple of days ago, the secretary said blandly. The word dead slammed him in the face like a hammer. I'm sorry, what? He asked, jaw dropped. She's dead, kid. Now scram. The secretary looked back to her computer. Why? Why did no one tell me? He could feel tears running down his face, and he knew that he was attracting stares, but he didn't really care. She glared at him, full of disgust. Get out or I'll call security, brat. Suddenly, everything was too much. The blinding white walls, the beeping of machines, the smell of antibiotics. His breathing was short and quick, and it felt like a vice was wrapped around his heart. Someone started shouting something, and in his panic he bolted. He didn't register anything other than running far away, until his lungs burned and his legs ached. He dropped his bag under the overpass, just standing there and breathing. He hiccuped, trying to get as much air in his lungs as possible. It still felt as if he was being strangled, as if at any moment the vice around his heart would clench and he would die. Pronounced dead. Those words rolled over and over in Izuku's mind. It was fuzzy. All he could process was the fact that his mom was dead. She's gone. He had nothing left fighting for. You make an excellent skin suit, kid. Suddenly he was engulfed. Thankfully he had enough time to close his eyes and mouth, but then he was covered in slime. He scrabbled desperately at the slime, trying to dig his way out as his lungs started to burn, and he could feel himself slipping. Then he was being slapped awake. He blearily opened his eyes before everything came crashing back to him. Izuku sat up suddenly, which turned out to be a mistake when his forehead collided with another forehead. A rather large, familiar forehead. All Might's forehead? He was 14 now, and knew the harsh realities of life, but seeing All Might in the flesh made him feel like he was 4. Grief had hit his walls with the sledgehammer, and let the child in him out. The child that had been beaten down all his life, but still dared to hold on to hope. Thank you so much, All Might. He scrambled to stand up, taking a few bows. His bag was plopped back onto his shoulder, and he almost blue-screened at the fact that his childhood idol had put his bag on his shoulder. It's no problem, kid. All Might laughed heartily. The sludge villain in a soda bottle shoved into one of his the pockets of his cargo shorts. He picked up his groceries again, and Izuku gave in to his impulses and dared to hope. Wait! All Might! He shouted, running up to the man who was leaving. Just one question. I've got to go, All Might boomed, getting prepared to leave. He had a stupid idea. A really stupid idea. But he didn't really care. Hope had stoked the ashes he thought were extinguished long ago, and he really didn't care if he lived or not, so he did it. Kid, you've got to let go, All Might shouted. It only registered to Izuku that he was now up in the air,
clinging to All Might's leg.
If I let go, I'll die!
Izuku shouted back. They landed on a rooftop, and he stumbled a little, the weight of the duffel bag heavy on his back as he looked over the city. All Might behind him, it suddenly occurred to Izuku how incredibly stupid that was. Yet adrenaline still coursed through his veins. He didn't know whether it was the fact that his mother was dead or almost dying to the sludge villain that left him without fucks to give, but it was incredibly freeing. He turned around at the sound of steam and saw a skeletal man. He resembled All Might, but he was so much smaller. Small Might?
All Might? Is that you?
He sighed wearily, the kind of sigh that you make after staying up 3 nights in a row working. Not that Izuku would know from personal experience. Definitely not.
Yes, it's me.
But you're... Izuku gestured at Small Might.
Unless your quirk is a transformation type quirk and not an emitter type quirk like everyone assumed.
Before he began to start mumbling, Small Might raised a hand. No, I'll explain what actually happened. He raised his shirt, exposing a nasty-looking injury. I got this from a villain fight 5 years ago.
Toxic chainsaw?
Izuku asked. You really know your stuff, huh, kid? Small Might chuckled, then shook his head. No, this was from a fight that was never broadcasted. This injury limits the amount of time that I can spend in my hero form. Most of the time, I look like this. He dropped his shirt back down, then looked up at Izuku, who was effectively blue screening. I need you to keep this a secret. It's very dangerous if it gets out.
Of course, he bowed. It will come with me to the grave.
Anyways, Small Might said, standing up with his groceries. You have a question for me?
Izuku sucked a deep breath in. Can a quirkless person become a hero?
It was as if the entire world stopped. The only thing he could hear was the wind rushing past them. The air hung heavy, waiting for the pro hero's answer. I'm sorry, kid, but no. It's simply too dangerous. Some villains can't be beat without a quirk. If you want to be a hero, try becoming a police officer or a doctor. Small Might turned away, as if he didn't just shatter Izuku's dream. They should let you out once you explain what happened. Then he just left. It was a delusion, a dream he clung to out of grief, one that he thought he'd come to terms with, but it didn't hurt any less. Sure, he had a new job, helping the heroes, but it felt empty. Anyone could do what he did. It was just a dumb, creepy hobby. Maybe he just needed to accept what he already knew. He really was a useless Deku. He had no one. Take a swan dive off the roof and hope for a quirk in your next life. A hollow cavern filled his chest, making him numb. He dropped his duffel bag on the ground, filled with a work uniform and green folders filled with notes that meant nothing. He took a few steps, closed his eyes, and then let himself fall. Chapter 6. Being Caught. Trigger warning for a suicide attempt. Discussed bullying and suicide baiting. Again, please do whatever necessary for yourself to be safe. Keigo flew around lazily, gnawing on the chicken drumsticks as he scanned the rooftops. He normally wasn't in Mustafu, but the commission had sent him to look into a couple of things for them, and as their little lapdog, he complied. They wanted to know what would spur All Might to become a teacher at UA, and who Deku was, the mystery analyst. Keigo had his suspicions, of course, about Deku. He had no clue about All Might. The man didn't even have a teaching license. From what he could infer, Deku was around the same age as him, if younger than him. He had a part-time job that he mostly relied on to pay the bills. He had a cat that he sent pictures of. Her name was Sushi, and she was adorable. He was a massive nerd, especially of pre-Quirk era media, and he was smart as hell. Hawks liked the guy, but the commission wanted him under their control. Anyways, he wasn't lazily flying over Mustafu for a break, although these chicken drumsticks were delicious. No, he was trailing All Might. He just landed on a rooftop with the kid clinging to his leg, and just deflated. There was steam, and then he was smaller. Skeleton Might? Small Might? Whatever, the commission would want to know about this anyways. He shook a couple of feathers out, moving them down to the rooftop. He missed the explanation that Small Mike gave the kid, but did catch the kid's question.
Can a quirkless person be a hero?
Oh, that was a loaded question. He crossed his fingers, hoping that Small Mite wasn't going to say what he thought he was going to say. I'm sorry, kid, but no. God damn it, Small Mite. He tuned out a little to what the old-timer had to say. He just left the kid there. After a villain attack that Keigo had previously trailed him from, he's not that good of a hero anyways, just showing up, dealing with the problem, and leaving. At least Keigo knows to stay behind and make sure the civilians are alright, and get them medical attention before continuing on patrol. He moved his hand up to his earpiece, about to get in contact with his handler, when the kid dropped his bag and started to walk. Keigo moved before he could think, adjusting his bucket of chicken drumsticks to tuck it under one arm and diving. His blood had run cold, and the only thing he could think was, "Please don't be too late." The kid had stepped off. He willed himself to go faster. Faster. Faster! He grabbed the kid under his armpits with his free arm, spreading his wings out and jetting them up. The kid had only fallen a few meters at most, but that was too many meters for his liking. He pulled the kid close to him, maneuvering carefully back onto the rooftop away from the ledge. The kid's eyes were wide open in shock, so Keigo took the time to really look at him. He was short, probably around 11 or 12, and yet the bags under his eyes were the biggest he's ever seen. His eyes were a brilliant green, but they were dull, lacking the spark of life. His curly green hair was a mess, like he dragged his head through mud. He wore a t-shirt that just said shirt and gray cargo pants, with red high tops that looked scuffed in the sense that he'd had them for a long time, but clearly cared for them.
Kid,
Keigo said gently, trying to project calm and not the absolute panic he really felt. He was briefed on a lot of things in the commission, but someone about to jump was not one of those things. He was on his own.
you're Hawks.
The kid's eyes were wide.
Oh my god, you're usually not in Mustafu, so I took you away from something important. I'm so sorry.
Hey kid, calm down, he said, his hand still gently holding the kid's wrist, loose enough to be reassuring, but there in case he tried to jump again. It's fine, I really wasn't doing anything important. Besides, you're important. The kid shook his head.
I'm not.
I'm sure that's not true. He gently tugged on the kid and just flopped onto the ground. Come here, let's just talk. The kid was nervous, but sat down. He stretched a wing out, using the bright red appendage to bring the kid closer in a pseudo-hug. wrapping around him like a blanket. The kid leaned into the touch, melting against the hero's side. After a few tense moments, Keigo decided to grab another chicken drumstick. "Do you want some, kid?" he asked, trying to gesture with the drumstick. "I got these from this really nice place downtown." The drumstick flew from his hand, bouncing across the concrete and eventually skidding over the edge. He pouted. "Aw, my chicken." The kid burst into giggles. Keigo was grinning despite the sacrifice of his drumstick for the kid's amusement. It was relieving to see that he could still laugh despite being about to jump. He just met the kid and he was getting attached. Keigo's fucked. "What's your name?" he asked. "I can't just keep calling you kid." The kid sobered up, curling up further like he was protecting himself.
Midoriya Izuku."
"Alright, Midoriya. What's wrong?" He was hesitating, holding back tears and practically biting his bottom lip hard enough to bleed. "Talk to me, please. I can't help you if I don't know." Keigo, number 12 pro hero, was not above begging.
"If you knew, you'd leave like everyone else,"
Midoriya muttered, shaking his head.
"Kid,
"Midoriya, I promised that nothing you said could be so bad that I'd leave," Keigo said, trying to reassure the kid. The words processed in Midoriya's head, and he seemed to be psyching himself up for something. After a few moments, he blurted out, "I'm quirkless." All the pieces fit together. He knew the statistics. He knew the bullying and suicide rates were absurdly high. But Keigo didn't really want to call attention to that, especially since the sentence right before that was, "You'd leave like everyone else." So he did the next best thing. "So?" he shrugged, pulling the kid closer. "I'm not going to leave you just because you don't have a quirk." Midoriya stared at him wide-eyed, tears watering already. He flung himself at the hero, clinging to his jacket as he sobbed. Keigo simply let it happen, eventually just patting the kid's shoulder awkwardly. It seemed that what Keigo said was what opened the floodgates, because the kid started talking. He waited patiently as the kid babbled about the bullying, how it started with teasing and words up to quirk usage and suicide baiting. The spider lilies on his desk and how his teachers would ignore or even encourage it. About how his father left him after his diagnosis, how his mother worked super hard, how she got cancer when he was 13 and died today. About how he's living alone in his childhood home and struggling to survive off of a part-time job until he finally found a second job that paid well. About how he'd always dreamed of being a hero before his mom fell ill. About his encounter with All Might and the villain attack. How he was almost drowned in sludge. And how All Might brutally crushed the last remains of the kid's dream and left him on the roof, alone. "Holy shit, kid," Keigo said, and Midoriya snorted next to him. "That's a lot." Excuse me. He slumped into Keigo, apparently over the embarrassment of crying onto the pro hero. "I'm so tired, but lighter? Who knew being out of fucks to give would feel so freeing?" Keigo chuckled. "You're lucky." He took a moment to collect his thoughts. He could tell that just talking about everything helped Midoriya a little bit. So now it was up to Keigo to not fuck this up. "But you know what? I think your mom would be proud of you. You've made it this far off of just yourself. That takes a fighting spirit." The kid's eyes were filling up with tears again, and opened his mouth to say something, when an explosion cut him off. They both turned towards the source, Hawks with a wince because of his advanced hearing. He could hear the signs of a battle. "You should go!" Midoriya exclaimed. We're talking about this afterwards, Keigo said quickly, spreading out his wings. You ready to fly? Midoriya only had time to squeak before he grabbed the kid once more, launching them up into the air. They soared through the air, and Midoriya's shriek of fright turned into delightful laughter. Keigo let himself smile, before focusing back on the situation. He chopped the kid off behind the police tape, flying up a little higher to assess the situation, only hearing the tail end of, "That's the sludge villain!" from the kid. Sure enough, a man made of sludge was inside the alleyway, with an explosive blonde kid trapped inside it. Backdraft and Kamui Woods were working to keep the crowd back, and Death Arms and Mount Lady were just standing there. Keigo was detaching his feathers when he heard a war cry. Midoriya ducked under the police tape, leaving his bag behind and grabbing a rock off the ground. He slung it at the sludge villain's eye, hitting it dead on. Sludge Man roared, and Keigo's feathers swooped down to tug the two boys away from the sludge, as Midoriya's desperate scrabbling was getting them nowhere. The kid was shouting something about the wind, so Keigo flew up, bringing his feathers back to him. He snapped his wings open, then flapped them, creating a gust of wind that blew the sludge apart. The crowd cheered as he landed, and the police were working on collecting the villain's eyes and body while the boys were herded to the paramedics. The media, were already on the scene and trying to interview him. He ignored them for now and just gave a few waves to the crowd, making his way over to the boys. He sent a couple feathers to go and grab Midoriya's bag. It would do no good if he just left it. "You're both good," one of the nurses said. Keigo walked over to hear the heroes praising the blonde for his powerful quirk and bravery. "Look, you can't just run into situations like that," Kamui Wood said, turning to face Midoriya. "Even with an analysis quirk, it's dangerous for..." "What analysis quirk?" The blonde turned to Midoriya. "Deku's quirkless." All the other pros rounded onto Midoriya at that point. "You're quirkless? That's even more reckless," Miss Mount Lady said. "You should have stayed behind the police line. We had it handled, right, Hawks?" Keigo raised an eyebrow and was about to say something when Midoriya jumped up. "Had it handled?" he asked, a dangerous edge to his voice. Keigo could already see the vultures angling their cameras on him. "Had it handled? If I had waited any longer before jumping in, Bakugo would be dead by now." The blonde violently flinched at the reminder and watched Midoriya like he had grown a second head. "I didn't even need a quirk to figure out that having a rock thrown in your eye would be painful. You were fully trained professionals. How are you not able to figure out something?" "We were waiting for someone with a better quirk." Death Arms was cut off by Midoriya continuing to rant. "Someone with a better quirk? Is that your excuse? I'm sorry, last I checked you don't need a quirk to throw a rock at someone's eye. Seriously, a kid is dying and all you've got is our quirks don't work? As heroes, you should be trained in the bare minimum amount of strategy to be able to work out how to save someone. It should be expected that not everyone's quirk would work all the time, and you should be trained to work around that. Because of that, Bakugo almost fucking died." Midoriya threw his hands up into the air, dragging them down his face. "Excuse me. Need to hydrate." The four pros turned to Keigo. He shrugged, knowing what he was about to say was going to set the media on fire. "The kid's right. I may have used my wings to blow him away, pun intended. But his quick thinking brought me the time to pull them both to safety. Plus, him frantically shouting 'wind' gave me a pretty good idea about how to beat that guy." Leaving the other heroes looking rightfully scolded, he turned to the kid. "Come on, we've still got to continue that conversation from earlier." Midoriya groaned, but picked up his duffel bag. Keigo let out one last wave for the crowd, before grabbing him and lifting off into the sky. Let's do one more chapter, y'all. Alright. Chapter 7, Muse Muffins. This the right place, kid? Keigo asked, landing them in front of a cat cafe. Muse Muffins, he noted, the cat cafe that he had to meet at. Midoriya nodded, opening the door. The cat cafe was surprisingly empty, except for the cats wandering around. It was a nice place, a mix of tables and beanbag chairs. The walls were painted a pleasant light pink, with other pastel colors mixed into the place. Keigo could smell pastries and coffee. A young lady was leaning on the counter, but she looked up from her phone when they both entered.
Midoriya! She exclaimed. Aihara-san was getting worried when you were late. Hawks?
While the young barista started fangirling over Keigo, something that will never not be funny, an older woman came out from the kitchen.
Midoriya!
She exclaimed, pulling the kid into a hug.
Don't ever do that again! An old woman's heart can only handle so much. I'm okay, I promise, Aihara-san.
Midoriya reassured her.
I was caught up in watching a hero fight, that's all. I'll duck in the back, get changed, and start my shift.
That's skipping a few steps there, kid. Keigo ruffled the kid's hair and listened to the kid squawk. I'd like a conversation with him before his shift. He should take a shower, though. His hair is disgusting. Aihara nodded, turning to the young lady.
Haruno, you can go now that your shift's ended. I'll handle the counter while Midoriya changes and has this conversation.
Haruno nodded in response.
Don't die, Midoriya,
she called out, before grabbing a bag and walking out the front. Aihara lightly smacked Midoriya.
Go get changed. I'm not getting any younger, and you still stink.
With a yelp and a yes ma'am, Midoriya went into the back with his bag. Keigo stretched his wings, falling into a beanbag and sending a quick text back to the agency. A cat walked up to him, her name tag calling her Pox. The pro hero looked up at the older lady with an eyebrow raised. Aihara chuckled as she wiped the counter.
I see you've seen the names, she said. Young Midoriya has been coming here for a long time. He named all of the cats.
Keigo shook his head. Should have known the kid's sense of humor is just as bad as his fashion sense.
Would you like anything, dearie?
No, I have my... Fuck! Keigo pouted dramatically. I left my fried chicken on the rooftop. Aihara laughed at the hero's dramatics.
Would you like a pastry?
You know what? I would. How much for that cat one? Keigo ended up overpaying her for the pastry. He had the money to burn, and picked a table by the window, where they could have some relative privacy. It wasn't really rush hour, thankfully, so there weren't many passerby gawking at him. He turned the chair around, letting his wings spread out as he ate his pastry. It was a pretty good one. Soon enough, Midoriya came back out. He wore a simple white collared shirt with some black slacks and those red sneakers. Over it was a light pink apron with Mew muffins embroidered on the front and paw prints over the pocket. His hair was much fluffier now that it was clean, sticking out all over the place, and it read more vibrantly green than before. Take a seat, kid, Keigo said. The kid did so nervously, his fingers drumming on the table.
What you said back there, in the alleyway?
Midoriya paused, nervously working his bottom lip.
Did you mean it?
Keigo smiled, hopefully reassuringly. I did. Your quick thinking and action was what saved that kid. Now, it was reckless, I'm not going to lie, but you saved him. Midoriya slumped over, wiping off tears. Besides, Keigo added, everything you said was right too. There were 4 pros. They should have figured something out long before we got there. For professionality's sake, I have to tell you that I disapprove of the language, but you were right. Midoriya nodded, going over and hugging the bird-themed hero. Keigo pat the kid on the back. Now then, we're going to have a talk about before that. I know you've got work, but after that, do you have anywhere to go? I should be good on bills, Midoriya said. Kid, you should not be living alone, Keigo said. Friends? No. Other related family? No. You sure Hara-san wouldn't take you in? She seems like a nice lady. I don't want to burden her. Keigo sighed, patting the kid's back. He was attached, all right. All right. We'll talk about it more after your shift. Now the important question. Do you still feel like you want to jump? Midoriya hesitated before he spoke up quietly. I still do. I think I have for a while, but it's quieter. Easier to ignore. I won't do it again if that's what you're asking. Keigo nodded, standing up and stretching. Alrighty then. You get to work, and I'm gonna go see if I can reclaim my spot. Don't you have to go back to patrol? Midoriya asked, but he also stood up. Nah, my shift was over a while ago, Keigo lied. Besides, I've got a meeting to attend that actually happens to be here tonight, so I might as well stick around. Midoriya went back behind the counter, speaking a little to Aihara, while Keigo made his way back over to the beanbag he was in earlier. To his annoyance, Pox was now sitting right in the middle where Keigo's butt is supposed to be. Alright, get out, you little rascal, Keigo muttered, picking the cat up and flopping down. He sighed in content and huffed as the cat jumped onto his stomach. He relaxed, letting one hand pet Pox while the other one pulled out his phone. UA Teachers and Company, 5:19 p.m. Falcon. I'm adopting a child. Anya Amasova. Eyes. Jack Bugs Bunny. Spill the fucking tea. Falcon. Shows a picture of Midoriya. Look at him. Anya Amasova. Oh my god. Jack Bugs Bunny. He looks like a piece of broccoli. Captain Jack Sparrow. Isn't that the kid who sassed Dead Arms? Mount Lady backdrafting Kamui Woods? Falcon. Yeah. Jack Bugs Bunny. Keep Broccoli-chan. Captain Jack Sparrow. How did you meet him? Falcon. Talked him down from a roof. He says he's okay, but I'm keeping an eye on him. That's how we spent the next few hours. Sitting in the same beanbag with a cat on his chest while Midoriya worked. There were customers who would trickle in occasionally who wanted a selfie with Keigo, but he made it very clear that he was not moving. To Keigo's amusement and the kid's embarrassment, there were even a few people who wanted a selfie with Midoriya. First to come in of the hero meeting were Aizawa, Yamada, and Kayama. All being from UA, it made sense that they would come in at the same time. Hello, little listener, Yamada exclaimed, already cooing over Midoriya. Midoriya gasped. Present Mike, Midnight and Eraserhead? Everyone looked at him. You recognize me? Aizawa asked, one eyebrow raised. The kid started to ramble, but Keigo chose to ignore it as Pox started kneading biscuits in his chest. He opened one eye when Kayama dropped down next to him. Broccoli-chan is certainly cuter in person, she said, wiggling her eyebrows. Hawks just rolled his eyes and smacked the hero. Next trickled in the detective and Ida, who were talking amiably about something or other as they entered the cafe. Midoriya nerded out about the pro hero and about Miss Joke when she arrived. How someone as bubbly as her is an underground hero is a miracle. He also fanboyed over Sasuke, Moashi, and Awata when they all arrived at the same 10 minutes before 9. While that was going on, Sukawichi went around and pulled some tables around so that there was a place for a proper meeting. "Takumi," Keigo groaned as Sukauchi spoke up. "You're going to have to actually sit at the table." "I can't move," he responded. "It's illegal. I'm the chosen one." Yamada snorted, then moved over to pick up Pox, who let out an offended meow. "You're now free," he exclaimed, his husband using erasure to cancel his quirk before he wrecked the cafe. "Caterpillar?" Moashi asked, looking at the tag of the cat that had settled onto his lap. Everyone at the meeting had a cat. "Mine is Fox," Keigo said, as the stubborn brat had decided to perch it on his shoulder now that he wasn't lying in the beanbag. "Alright, the puns are all well and good," Sukoichi said, petting the cat on his lap. "But there's a matter of security. There's a teenager here, and this is confidential information." Everyone looked up at Midoriya, who was currently closing up the cafe. Besides, Deku is late," Sasuke grumbled. Midoriya closed the curtains and flipped over the sign on the door, turning back to the table with a smile. "It's funny how the cats gravitated towards the heroes they're named after," he said, looking over the gathering of heroes with none of the nerves of the past few hours. "Pox went to Hawks, Unite went to Midnight, Present Mew went to Present Mike, Eraser Paw went to Eraserhead, Miss Purr went to Miss Joe, Podgenium went to Ingenium, Detective Meow Meowsa went to Detective Sukauchi, Bubble Cat went to Bubble Girl, Centipeter went to Centipeter, Caterpillar went to Centipeter, Sir Cat Eye went to Sir Night Eye, and Midoriya paused to pick up a cat who had wandered over to him. Nekidu went to Dekidu. Alright, y'all. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to be doing my best to post as much as I can. I'm sick right now, but I'm still trying to keep up. And with all that said, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Ciao for now.